Welcome back to our post-Super Bowl edition of Touchdown. Coming at you from the Golden Harp in Vienna, Austria. Signage right here. I'm your host, Joel Turpin. With me today, Katie Eichhorn. The Super Bowl fan of the game, Super Bowl winning Patriot fan, David Asselin, and Philly Chris Burdett. We're gonna do this one pretty informal. We're gonna lead this show off with just kind of a general discussion about impressions from the game. I think anybody that's watching this by now has seen all the rundowns. That there's no spoilers. You all know what happened in the game. You saw it, hopefully live, and if not, you've seen the highlights since then. So let's just jump right on to our impressions of the game. We'll let our buddy Dave take point on this.
Okay, unbiasedly speaking, I think this is probably one of the most exciting Super Bowl games I've ever seen. I mean, literally right down to the wire, right down to the last offensive play of the game by the Seahawks. I mean, couldn't script a better finish to the game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say.
Unless you were a Seahawks fan, then you probably scripted a lot of better finishes.
There was a lot of debate about the call from the coach of the Seahawks, which is a bad call. Belichick himself actually said, "Well, you got more than just one down to get it in there. You need to stop the clock." They thought, Belichick thought it was a great call. A lot of it's hindsight is 2020.
Of course, Belichick thought it was a great call. He caused it.
Thought it was a great call.
He did defend Pete Carroll's choice, but
Pete Carroll's choice and said it wasn't a crazy decision. It was a smart coaching decision. The Patriots chose not to take that timeout, which is still another. We can go on that subject a little bit later. But they kept out there, this stop-run defense, the Patriots did, and Pete Carroll thought he made the right call.
Let's table the discussion of that particular call, because I think that's an entire segment in itself. Yeah. And let's just talk about our impressions of the overall game.
I think you actually got me on film. I don't think I've been more excited since
since the Red Sox won something, or
since the Red Sox won something,
or the last time you hung out with your woman.
Well, the last time I hung out with my woman. That is correct. Yes. It was a great Super Bowl. I just wish I was around my brothers when I was seeing it, but it was fantastic. I was with my boys here.
Yeah.
It was great atmosphere as well.
Absolutely. I tell you what, the thing that I took away from this game, and what was most interesting to me is when you watch a sporting event, generally one team or the other looks dominant, and maybe or they look evenly balanced all the way through. Maybe there's one switch of momentum during the game, but rarely do you see the kind of momentum switches that we saw in this game as often as you did. There were 3 or 4 times in that game where it looked like only one team could possibly win it because it was playing so dominant. Early on, it was New England. They were dominating in every phase, it seemed. And then Seattle, with their comeback and what everybody was so sure that Seattle was going to win that we're, discussing who's going to be the MVP. Out of the Seahawks. And then, once again, New England comes back and roars ahead, and you're 100% sure New England's going to win the game. And then Seattle comes back and gets down the field, and you're sure that Seattle's going to punch it in and win the game. It's just crazy. I'm not used to that level of flip-flop in a sporting event, much less a major sporting event.
You prefer that in your politics?
I prefer it in my politics. Yes, in my politics, flip-flops, absolutely. On the beach, flip-flops.
Yeah.
I tell you, it was a bad day to stop taking Valium. I'll tell you that.
Wrong day to stop taking Valium.
I think what was this was a great teaching game for me. I was I was working, wasn't able to join you for the show, but I had a lot of great teachable moments in that game. And if you didn't care who won, this was a fantastic game of football to watch. In terms of, as you said, the momentum changes, the shifts. There were a lot of interesting play calls. Some debatable, we'll debate them later.
Yes.
I think it was really a great teachable game and interesting as a person who quite honestly didn't care what happened to either team. A lot of fun to watch.
But you picked the Patriots.
I did pick the Patriots. I tell you, Brady's going to announce his retirement shortly.
No.
Okay. So. Slipping a bold prediction right in the middle of the post-Super Bowl glow.
I really think so. What more do you want?
He wants one for the thumb, doesn't he?
Yeah, he wants one for the thumb.
One for the thumb.
Exactly. He's going to make Giselle a pair of...
Well, I think if Brady got that 5th Super Bowl ring, there would be no discussion on who's the greatest.
Which I'm sure we'll get into. Who's the greatest of all time, which is definitely, I think, with this win, there's some maybe change into the guard or at least some more ammunition to go in that path.
Peyton Manning.
I mean, listen, from my side of things, we've already alluded to it a little bit. When it comes down to the Super Bowl and who's in the Super Bowl and my level of caring for the Super Bowl, traditionally there's not a lot of passion there on my side. Why? Because of all the people up here except Dave, most of the time our franchises are let down, and as a result, we don't have any skin in the game. So all you really hope for...
Chris, you've been to the Super
Well,
Bowl.
yeah.
Joel, you guys?
Not since I've been alive.
But you have.
Yeah, before I was born, the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl twice.
Yeah.
And
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 we've
I'd
made
like
it...
to say it right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
the Browns
I'm
have
sure.
never.
My
been
only
to the Super Bowl.
point is, if it makes you feel any better, in my lifetime it's been twice, but one time I was 1 year old, so that doesn't count. So in my knowledgeable life, it's happened only one
and
time.
they haven't won it, so yeah,
Exactly.
we're
And I guess that's kind of where to my point is when I go to watch a Super Bowl nowadays, my team's not in it except 1 year, and as a result, all I really care about is whether or not it's going to be a good game or not. And as a result, really, when I look back at the football games that have actually been played in the Super Bowl, I mean, there's times when I don't even watch the Super Bowl because something else is going on that day. Like I remember going to a concert one time in Philly.
getting your hair done.
Exactly, getting my
Sure.
nails
Nails
did,
did.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Fair
And,
enough.
but in reality, as far as my conscious memory, other than obviously the New England Patriots beating the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2004 season, I think there's only two other Super Bowls in my memory, and one was the Bears, with Devin Hester returning the opening kickoff. And my mom's from Chicago as well, so there's a little bit of passion there and desire to that as far as a memory game. And the other one then was the Rams versus Tennessee. Going down to the end, I watched that game actually end nighttime in England when I was studying abroad. So from my side of things, you take the Bears out of the game because of my affiliation with my mom and the Devin Hester return. You take the Philadelphia Eagles out of there. All I have left is the Rams and Tennessee. And as far as the game itself is concerned, going down to the wire, and even after the interception at the end of the game, the notion that they then had to possibly move out of, because they didn't have a lot of space down there to kneel the football. Okay, yeah, safety doesn't really matter much, but at least it leaves these guys alive. The fact that game was the way that it was, and also watching the football game with these guys. And I give a quick shout out to Dave and the shirt that he wore that day as well, and he of course can tell you a little bit more about it. But I mean, fabulous in and of itself. The fact that he wore that shirt that he got at the game the last time him and his brothers and his dad got together, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And also, we're watching it with the producer Tom as well. So hey, both teams in the game at this point from a fan side of things, and just a great time, a great game. As a fan, as a sports fan, as a football fan, it was just very, very nice to see a competitive game that went down to the end. This guy thought that the game was out of reach at one point. I thought he was going to just, tip the table over. Down 10 was a little bit too much for him. But just a great Super Bowl.
I've never been done.
Great Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just think, like you just nailed it. I think that game was from the beginning till the very end. You were on the edge of your seat watching this entire Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
And this is something not like last year's blowout or
Whereas,
the year
but
before.
at halftime, half our guests left because, there really wasn't much more to see.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
and sometimes you have a game that ends up being close. The San Francisco-Baltimore game, for example, it was close in the final summation, but it wasn't close all the way through like this one
was.
was.
Really
This one
tit
was,
for tat.
yeah. You didn't have the feeling that that it was going to be just one team was playing well or something. Even though you had these big switches and stuff, at least each team had their turn in the driver's seat, and it happened all the way throughout the game. So. Yeah, a lot of fun, great game to watch, worth staying up late, even though it wiped me out for about 3 days afterwards, it was still...
I'm still coming back, actually. I've been up
When-
until
when-
3 o'clock in the morning the last 4 days, which is maybe for you is normal, but for
me
me
it's normal,
that's out there.
Yeah, it kind of threw off my body clock a little bit.
Yeah, and it was fun having my son Lucas up there at the game with us and getting a chance to watch one with him for a change since they didn't have school the next day, so that was good. Yeah. Anyway, that was the impressions of the game, and where do we go from here? What do we think about the two teams we just watched? Are they gonna be back again next year? Or are they gonna?
Well, actually, the Patriots have only got several signings they've got to worry about. They've got to worry about Revis, and Revis has already said he's committed to stay. He wants that ring, and I think the Patriots really want to keep Revis core. He's got the experience. He's got that driven force that seems to inspire the younger players. Then they got McCourtney also. They're going to try to franchise McCourtney in the offseason. And Tom Brady, you know the story about Tom Brady and his salary, what he did earlier this year to free up some money.
Yeah, and I was going to say that was the one thing for. I kind of hear where Katie's going with the whole topic. You win the Super Bowl, you go out on the top and stuff like that. But he's already as committed to changing his contract as far as to try to extend and provide some additional to provide additional funding for the rest of the team so they can build around him.
As far as I understood what he did, though, did he not just make it easier for himself to get out of that contract?
He took less money, which then opens up additional funds for the Patriots to go ahead and sell additional.
I said he's 100% patriotic, shall we say, that he made a sacrifice for the team in order for the team to grow. But I think that might, to me, psychologically, that indicates I might not be here.
Gives him a quick step out option with dignity and totally legit.
And wouldn't you want to go out in that manner? A great career-ending win, and you go home to Giselle. Life ain't so bad.
And Dave's kids.
Dave's kids.
Thank you, Tom. Taking care of my kids.
If Tom goes, I know you don't think he will, and I don't necessarily think so either. But if Tom would leave tomorrow, whatever reason, where would the Patriots stand?
Is Jimmy G ready?
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is ready. I don't think Jimmy G's ready for this yet. I think this is kind of this Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers syndrome going right now. I think.
Well, if you guys get lucky enough for Jimmy G to turn into Aaron Rodgers, then God bless you.
Well, you know, the guy played in preseason, and the one game he did play, he had like a 121 quarterback rating. He threw 9 for 11 for 202 yards. I mean,
this is going to be another situation where I say, how much?
I mean, the guy
have? Really?
He's from Eastern Illinois or something like that. Where is he from? East Indiana. He's from a little state. Western Illinois or Eastern? Yeah.
A small D2 school.
Yeah, it's just one of these guys that, it's like Edelman. It's like one of these guys Belichick seems to find. He might not be big, he might not be powerful, but he sees that heart and soul of a player, a team player. Let me go back to what the Patriots. There were a lot of teams talking about they would gladly renegotiate or refigure out the contract. Because in reality, who doesn't want to play for the Patriots right now? Say you're one of these savvy veterans, like LeBlunt. Say you're one of these guys right here, and you know you got a year or so left in your legs, or they're already talking about getting Fitzgerald from the Cardinals right now, who would fit in great with this game. I mean, Belichick's already doing his homework. They're talking about getting this player. Who
He's
would
just
not
making
want
an
to? I mean, but who would not?
basically.
Naturally, I'm being a little biased and I'm beefing up a little bit.
Weird.
But the facts are facts. I mean, who does not want to have it? If you're Larry Fitzgerald and you're offered a decent contract by the Patriots, what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, listen, it'll be interesting regardless of whether it's next year or the year next or the year after. It'll be extremely interesting to see what ends up happening when that torch is turned. Obviously, there's a system there in New England that they are able to produce year in and year out with a different cast of characters. But what has always been there? It's always been Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And when that guy then bows out, say what you will, say what you won't about him, is it really then the system that makes the quarterback or the quarterback that makes the team and the system? I mean, I think of the New England Patriots side of things, don't get me wrong, Tom Brady is a heck of a player. But the system that they're able to build year in and year out with teams that guys that teams don't want anything to do with, I think there's a chance that even a second-tier quarterback could still get the job done there. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. But
that's what I like.
Maybe he ends up being the next, like you said.
You see a lot of teams like maybe the Browns, maybe even the Chiefs. They try to get this franchise quarterback and build a team around the quarterback. I think that's not the right way to go.
The Browns have proved time and time again that is just not a full strategy.
I'd like to see the Chiefs try that. They haven't really tried to build a team around a quarterback since Lenny Dawson was there. They've brought in third string guys.
I think Alex Smith if you had.
We've tried to do it that way.
Yeah,
it hasn't worked for us beyond a playoff appearance. So.
I defended the Browns using. But I defended the Browns playing a scrappy team when they actually were moderately successful this season, playing somebody that was a third string quarterback, local boy, small town kid, and playing this batch of scrappy receivers and God knows what, it was ragtag.
Yeah.
But as soon as we put I was never a fan of Manziel, we all knew that from the start, but I said as soon as that happened, good Lord, he didn't produce. Now he's in rehab. We're not supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, let's
get off the Manziel.
I'm not gonna to digress into that topic, but
Johnny
nonetheless,
Manziel, talk about deflated balls.
Yeah.
we've deflated my hopes for next season already. Josh Gordon's already kind of.
I don't think you can
We'll
say
talk about-
at the moment. You can say on the one hand that Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, and then say, well, it's just the system. We didn't build around the quarterback. Okay, you just happen to have the quarterback there the whole time. So until he wins with somebody else, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a question mark.
Until he turns around. Now he did have the 1 year with Matt Castle where he did well, and we know Matt Castle's not all that impressive outside of there. So that's a good indicator.
Yeah.
Ended up in Kansas City. Right?
Ended up in Kansas City, had one decent season out of about 4. So yeah, it's Castle time.
I'm going to go right back to it. Like Chris said, you can have a mediocre quarterback. I'm going right back to it. It's in the trenches. If you do not protect your quarterback, or if you can
Heard
get
that
to
a
the
few
quarterback.
times this year.
Okay, we saw that in the Super Bowl.
All right, back on the game.
Yeah.
Forget the final play for a moment.
So for me, as far as themes of the Super Bowl are concerned, and maybe some impressions that I have outside of being excited about the game because it was a good game and it was a close game. For me, one of the interesting storylines, and outside of these crazy storylines that we're going to get to, obviously, and that is Seattle did basically almost everything that they needed to do to win that football game until midway through the fourth quarter. And what do I mean by that? 14 points that they let up against the Patriots, a solid, potent offensive team, midway through the fourth quarter. Tom Brady's looking somewhat pedestrian. He's got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yep.
They're not moving the football on the ground. And all of a sudden, 2 possessions that they end up having
Dave has gone into
in the
a very
fourth
dark
in
place.
the exactly. Dave had basically given up. He's like, Barbara, maybe we should get out of here. Barbara's still hoping for some interceptions, which she ends up getting at the end. But that's a side topic. But one of the key things, and I look back at it a little bit at the end, in the last 2 possessions, not counting the kneeling it out and the mayhem at the bottom, at the end of the game, in those last 2 possessions, they end up having 16 passing plays to 4 running plays. And on the ground, those 4 running plays picked up a total of 5.5 yards or something like that. And what Seattle was able to do the entire season and the entire 3.5 quarters of that football game, Tom Brady marched the New England Patriots down the field, not once, twice to put them over the top. And it's just, for
and
me,
ate up valuable clock time.
And the fact that they went through the air every single play practically was just, they knew what was coming, and they just absolutely couldn't stop it. And you saw the little frustration, or a lot of frustration on Tom Brady's side. They'd zoom in on him after the turnover, or a 4 and out, or 3 and out, or whatever it happened to have been. And it just, people were like, oh, he looks sad, he's not going to do it, he's frustrated. This to me is what you have in a quarterback like Tom Brady, regardless of what you're going to say about him. Cheating, not cheating, you hate the Pats, you love the Pats, it doesn't really matter. The guy's been there now 6 times, they won 4 times. He stayed cool as a cucumber, cool, to quote another deceased guy, Stuart Scott, as the other side of the pillow, and he marched the guys down the field against the top-rated defense in the NFL, and he knew exactly what they were going to bring, and they couldn't bring it, and that to me was an exciting thing to watch and an interesting fact in the football game.
Well put.
Play of the game, obviously, at the end is the big
No
play of the
play.
game. Any other plays that stand out in your mind? Any single plays? That,
the catch too. The catch that led up to that fact, right? They're marching down the field. That is of course Seattle, and Wilson's done quite well for himself. Actually, he's played himself basically what he normally plays. He's not a flashy passer. He doesn't have turnovers. He marches the down. They run the ball well, and they pick up some yards on the passing side of things. And all of a sudden, the final drive of the game, when they need to go to the air because they don't have enough time and enough timeouts, That football just kind of thrown up in the air. Kurse goes ahead, snags it, not at all. Bumbles around a few times. He's on the ground on his back. We talk about the catch as it relates to the Dwight Clark, catch. If they would have then punched it through and won that football game, by far that would have been the play of the football game.
Yeah. Well, and what was fun about that play was how excited all the Patriots fans were, assuming that it was incomplete. And there's about 3 of us that are still sitting there watching, like, whoa. Slow down, guys. Slow down.
Didn't touch the ground.
They're calling that a catch.
Again, when I said teachable moments, this is where everybody in the bar is going, why does that count? And it never touched the ground. Watch, it just bounces off his face mask.
But that's just like the catch the last time the Patriots were
in the Super Bowl. That's on another crazy catch. Yeah,
exactly. I thought the play of the game, other than the obvious play of the game, the interception by the Butler did it, was the play just before where Dante Hightower actually got his arms around
Marshawn Lynch.
And got him to stop on the. That's where in the trenches, where we were able to penetrate that line, and this is what they call on Belichick. He decided not to call a timeout, playing these little head games or whatever Belichick does, and leaves these core groups and brings in this guy, brings in this one guy. Yeah, that was again I think Dante Hightower stop on Lynch.
Yeah, that was a Super Bowl winning tackle.
Exactly.
I'm going to go back a little bit. It's and I apologize, I don't have the names right in front of me of who it was, but Seattle was up by 10. They had the ball and they were driving. And it was 3rd and I believe 7 or 8. Basically, they were a little shy of midfield. They make a nice pass. Wilson throws a nice pass. I just can't remember which guy it was. Drops it in his hands. He drops it. They have to punt it back to the Patriots, and that one's when the Patriots went on their 2-touchdown run.
Yeah.
That guy makes that catch, and there's a really good chance we're not talking about any sort of comeback. He makes that catch. It's another couple of minutes off the clock. It's another bit of driving down the field. It's another couple of hits of Marshawn Lynch, running the ball. They're over the 50-yard line. It's a different game. And you go back later and you look and you say, what was maybe that little turning point? That was that next momentum shift. I talked about how we had these huge momentum shifts.
So many in this game.
That was it. That was that big momentum shift away from Seattle that they wouldn't get back until right in that last minute and a half when they almost pulled off the miracle comeback themselves. So
well, I think, again, teachable moments. I very specifically pointed out to some people that are learning about football in my bar that have been coming recently. I said, this is an incident of what my father would always say is catch first, then run.
Yeah.
This was clearly, this guy thinks he's got it. It was a nice, easy pass to catch. But he's running before he's got the ball.
Yeah, trying to turn upfield and watch out for the defender.
Exactly. And I said, Dad, you're going to watch this. Catch the ball first, then run, north-south.
Yeah, and if the Patriots don't come back and win the game, that's not, it's just a dropped pass, whatever. It happens all the time. But if you look back and you see the momentum shift, you see 14 points scored all the way against you at that point. Yes, other plays had to happen. Many other plays had to happen. But that was a pretty key one. And, of course, because it's one that was all in one player's hands and he basically dropped the ball.
As they say.
Both literally and metaphorically, he dropped the ball.
All right, well, let's talk about that last couple of plays, finally. Setting the stage, we've talked around a little bit. The Patriots are now up by 4. Seattle needs a touchdown to win the game. They cannot kick a field goal. There's no... That's the difference. And if they score, a great likelihood that they're going to win the game, depending on how much time is left. So there's the issue. They've got about 2 minutes when they got the ball back?
2:02.
2:02. And they're driving down. They, of course, their weapons are a little bit limited at that point because they've got their big guy is Marshawn Lynch, and of course they can't just run the ball, ad hoc. They have to be sparing with him because of the time running. So. They drive down, you get the incredible catch in the middle, they get it down to about the 5-yard line.
Just really quick, although they do leverage Lynch in the fact that he gets a little screen pass out there and gets an massive gain, which was absolutely huge. We totally agree. The running play wasn't going to be there, but then they end up going a little bit otherwise. You still get that guy the football, and he ends up obviously demanding a lot of tackling.
Absolutely. So you get that, you get on down, you're down at the 4-yard line, they give the ball to Lynch. He carves through the defense for 4 yards, but not 5. He stopped at the 1.
Play of the game.
They've got about a minute left still, right?
Yeah.
Close to it before they let the play clock run.
Okay.
They had quite a bit of time, 49 seconds, I think. They let the play clock run. All the Patriots fans in the bar are going crazy. Call a timeout. Call a timeout. Call a timeout.
What is this about,
because
really?
everybody's thinking back to that Super Bowl not too long ago when they went ahead and let the runner in so they didn't have time to come back. Everybody's having that same thought. Do you let them score just so you can have 30 seconds to drive down and kick a field goal and tie it? Maybe that's the way to go. Belichick decides not to call a timeout, whether it's
Psychological. I don't know.
totally psychological or whether
I don't know what this guy was thinking.
who knows, whatever, however it played out. Whether he's being choked by his sleeveless hoodie. He chooses not to call a timeout. It works. Bless him.
What I find amazing about that play with the interception, just before the play gets underway, one of his better secondary players, Arrington, he actually calls him out, brings in this undrafted rookie from Western Alabama. Brilliant call. No, because it was said later, go to that guy. They know they're going to go to that guy. Belichick knew they're going to go to that guy. They didn't know what was going to be the slant, but that guy was to cover this guy. It was kind of a typical Belichick move, but going to that guy, and the Butler did it, comes out of nowhere and grabs an interception.
Does our producer Tommy want to come over here and weigh in from a Seahawks standpoint? I believe at the time he said that was the worst play call in Super Bowl history, not letting Marshawn Lynch run it in from the 1.
I was surprised.
Come on in and let us hear what you think.
I was surprised.
I think we were all surprised, obviously.
Okay. I actually want to start with what mistake did the
A little further, Tommy.
oops.
There you go.
I want to know from Dave what mistake the New England Patriots made in the game. I haven't heard.
Well, we threw 2 interceptions. We threw to he underthrew to Brian. He underthrew and behind Gronk for an interception. First half they were getting to Brady. Second half they didn't. They were getting to Brady, and I think they made that adjustment. The Patriots made lots of mistakes during that game. We almost lost that game. I think they made adjustments on the offensive line, and then Brady had all day long from about the third quarter on. The guy actually would step out in front of the pocket, and you'd see him throw it. They weren't getting to Brady after the.
It's almost like they started playing this sort of defensive containment defense, which I always
Brady got nailed a couple times. He absolutely got shellacked behind the line of scrimmage by these guys. Yeah. And then did you see him top there? Good. He actually congratulated the Seahawks. I don't know, Bubba Dean, whatever his name was.
Bubba Dean.
He actually congratulated this guy on his tackle.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's Paula Dean, actually.
Okay. Yeah, just as ferocious.
Yeah. But, I would say that. I mean, just looking at the quarterback passing, and how many passes Brady got off in that game.
He got 37 out of 50.
In a Super Bowl game. That was just incredible.
37 for 50 for over 328 yards, 4 TDs.
Right.
Especially against Seattle. I mean, you've got to take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
He could have done that against Cleveland with no
I'm
problem.
actually
He got that off
surprised.
against Seattle.
Wait. Let's stop dominating the discussion. We brought Tommy up here in order to talk about the call and what the heck was going on in the minds of Pete Carroll and Sea Chicken Nation.
You know what? There's been a whole lot of many attempts at damage control. Yeah, Pete Carroll. I'm a West Coaster. His whole USC thing. I have a little problem with him. His past and getting in the getaway car up to Seattle from USC. Okay, yeah, there's still that. I get into the drama a bit, right? Yeah, and this, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll leave that. But at the moment, I thought it was very obvious that Marshawn would punch it through. He would have 2, maybe 3 attempts to punch it through. They had 1 timeout. It seemed like the obvious thing to do, but at the same time, I thought, who is the offensive coordinator trying? This is in the offensive coordinator or the sorry.
Yeah, but it was Pete Carroll's call. That's what he said. It was Pete Carroll's call.
But as far as, I mean,
He said
any
that
good,
it was called.
any
I
good,
think the offensive
no, but
coordinator
any
actually
good
made it.
No,
coach
it
will
wasn't.
accept the blame for a botched call.
Right. The assistant.
Or
Yeah, when the
call.
buck stops
No,
here.
it wasn't Pete Carroll's call, but he's calling it his. Okay, and he's a good guy to do
As
that.
you, no, as
It
you should.
wasn't a bad call.
Right.
Because if
Of
you
course
got
it wasn't, Patriots
you got-
fan.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Okay, so the assistant offensive coordinator is thinking, hey, you know, why don't we I would say on a scale of who was making the Seahawks a lot more successful. A lot of people go for the, you know, Marshawn, but the fact is, if you look at all of the busted plays this season, all of the busted plays, and how Russell Wilson just continued to put yardage on the board. If you look at the dozens and dozens of busted plays, and I would say this, in the assistant offensive coordinator's mind, calling that play, he's thinking, I'm going to hand this to Russell and not to Marshawn, and see what he can do with it, right? He's thinking he can either do a bread and butter touchdown, great, minute left, we're going to win this, let's see what Brady can do with under a minute to come all the way back, or his other option is give it to Marshawn, bust it through, and you know. But I think in that split second, you know, hurry up defense, hurry up offense, that he had probably about a good 13 seconds to figure out a play, right? And he's thinking, okay, and
Watch what Belichick.
and I don't regret it. I mean, of course, I regret being a fan of the Seahawks and
I regret being a fan of the Seahawks.
Let me finish my sentence.
Sorry.
And having to have gone through that,
Yep.
right? That was brutal.
Yeah.
Incredibly brutal. But I mean, it's just as brutal as it would have been being a Patriots fan and just watching again, 2 times in the same Super Bowl, watching your win just evaporate, right? Yeah. The boom.
Dave goes off for this.
The boom swung 3
Thought
times.
we lost you at one point. in that
No,
game.
the pendulum swung 3
You know, there was a bunch of there were a bunch of Seahawk fans in the back, and I kept going back there busting their gazumas.
Yeah,
Then
but-
I come back
but
when we were getting busted. Come back to you guys.
The interesting thing was you swore that the Patriots would win it at the halftime, and then you swore that the
They would
Seahawks
lose
would
it.
win it in about deep into
That's
the
what,
third
exactly
quarter.
what we're talking
Yeah.
about. This
Yeah.
momentum.
This
of
momentum
I
shift where
have
you
never
really
Swore,
could-
and
seen
everyone.
a Super Bowl where it went like wrong and then wrong. It was like
Right.
amazing.
The
It was like-
pendulum swung 3 times in that game, right? Yeah, we're not talking about lead changes. I'm just talking about the whole psychological momentum, right? And then
I
on
was
top
gonna
of
say
that,
3 seems even low. I would even give it more time.
yeah, and then on top of that inertia, where people just sit back and go, it's done, you know, and they show shots of people actually leaving the Super Bowl. I don't even understand why
They did.
people leave the Super Bowl early.
Well,
It's kind of like a
this-
manic depressive
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
Yeah, no,
It
but
was
this
just
is the
highs
problem.
and lows
But
for
this
both
is the
teams.
problem with the Super Bowl in general, and I think this is another one of the reasons why, especially because my team never gets into it, that I have a problem with the Super Bowl.
Once in a while.
No,
Oh,
my point.
come
No,
on.
my point is the fact. You know who was leaving that Super Bowl? All the corporate people, all the guys who got the free pass because their company sponsors the NFL and da da da. If you take a look at the actual amount of
Fans.
Pats fans and Seahawks fans, or substitute whoever's actually playing in the football game, who actually are attending that from a percentage-wise from a normal football game, it's ridiculous. And I think that's another one of the reasons why it's tough as a team that doesn't fan of a team that doesn't get in there that often to sit down and watch the Super Bowl and get pumped for it because of the commercialization of that football game and of the NFL.
I mean, I think I saw that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to finish that statement is that you didn't have any Seahawks fans leaving that football game at that point. You didn't have any Pats fans leaving at that game at that point. The people you potentially had leaving that were the families that needed to get home and all those types of things. The fair weather fans that would never have been in that football game any other way.
Well, I think
Sure.
that Nikki, my husband and I checked the day of the game that there were a pair of tickets going on eBay for $35,000
Not
to the
bad.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
35. It's a pair.
Yeah, but Katy Perry was playing halftime.
Oh,
No, no,
that's
no.
right.
No,
We
the
haven't
Sharks.
even discussed Sharkgate. So we'll get there.
But if we bring it back then to the call, I mean, I think where you're going, Tom, is the fact that it was the right football call to play at that time. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm sort of in the same situation too.
Because
Hindsight's
You've
2020.
You've got at least two plays to go. You do a throwing play, it doesn't work, then you punch Marshawn through. He's
And Russell Wilson's a quarterback.
It's not a bad
And
call.
Russell Wilson is a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over that often. He had 20 touchdowns and 7 interceptions during the regular season. Extremely high touchdown to interception ratio. Fabulous player. If that play goes any other way than a
it's called
squeaking
brilliant.
up, interception by Butler, then it's a great play. And if you look back at also the calls that guy did just to get them there, if it's the two amazing plays that they had in the NFC Championship game, the fake field goal along with the onside kick that they were able to recover, okay, a little bit lucky there. If it was going for the touchdown versus the field goal at the end of the first half, when we're all sitting there like, hey, if you go for a passing play at this point, you've basically wiped points off the field because you won't have enough time in order to put the field goal unit on there and kick a field goal. So, yeah, of course, it's the moment. It's the time when everybody's watching and is seeing it happen and everything's going to be on that point. But what he had done from a call standpoint to even get them in that game and keep them in that football game, to question it the way that we're going to, of course we're going to. But from my side of things, I'm with, let's call it Bill Belichick, and I agree that it wasn't that bad of a decision.
It wasn't catastrophic, but I think what my point would have been, dance with the date that brought you.
Yeah, of
All
course.
season
Of
long.
course.
We've watched
Of course.
Marshawn Lynch drag
But-
10 guys behind
But you know
him.
what would have happened if they didn't make that play and it didn't get a touchdown? You have the clock stops. Now you've got 2 plays to try to punch it in. So, listen, I guess what my only problem is that we sit down there and say how absolutely horrible it was, and everybody then can obviously clearly say it. And of course, it was the wrong call because it was an interception.
because it failed.
Exactly.
You know,
It's easy from
I think
retrospect.
we need to rewind a little bit. It wasn't until about midway through the third quarter that we started seeing Jimmy Collins got burned by Russell Wilson once. He was right on top of him. Wilson went on one of these things and ran for a few yards. I think this is a little mistake on the side of the Seahawks. They didn't do a little bit more quarterback options. I mean, Russell
I was
Wilson.
surprised.
Quarterback option would have been a great call.
Yeah, it was
It's
a
a great call. He could have, no matter what happened, the guy's only got maybe a 3-yard sweep to run. You're not going to catch this guy.
A
This I
fade
cannot
pass
understand.
would have been a nice call there.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
that's
but
not so interception
long before
prone.
that. I mean, even the fourth quarter, the Patriots actually began to contain Wilson, and they sacked the guy twice in the second half. And if you recall it,
Yeah, he only had 39 yards on the ground that game.
yes, he did.
I came back over here to point out, for me though, watching the game live, the reason that felt like such an incredibly bad call at the time, and you thought it at the time,
Yes.
I thought it at the time.
Of course I did.
The reason it felt like such a bad call was you watching the game live, you just knew, everybody sitting there just knew that the Seahawks were going to score that touchdown
I thought it was
going in with the power run.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it. There was not a doubt in anybody's mind that if they put Lynch behind that center, gave him the ball, he was going to punch it in. And that's the reason that call felt so
Sure,
incredibly
yeah,
bad.
I mean-
because you're watching it live. He had just done that blow through. Yeah, there was a touchdown game-saving tackle, but before that tackle, there was 4 yards of
He's
sky.
dragging people
And he was
behind
dragging
him.
people all game, and he'd only had one stop all game where he was for negative yardage. So I don't see him getting stopped for 5 yards. And if they did, a passing down on second down would be an easier pass from 5 yards out than it is from a half a yard. Yes, on one hand, you can look back and you can debate the merits of it from a pure, intellectual play calling standpoint. But from a gut feeling standpoint, when you were watching that game, everybody had the same reaction. They were gonna score. They were gonna score easy. It was a matter of how much time was going to be left on the clock, and that's why it
that's
seems
why it
like
was
such an
freaking-
incredibly bad
It's
game.
Yeah.
like,
And if
it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
Why?
and the truth is that if you look at the generic situation, you've got just under a handful of yards to go. you've got a little bit of time, and to win the Super Bowl, you need the best running back to make that play. And who do you have?
And you have one of the best.
You have Marshawn Lynch waiting for you to hand. Yeah.
You know the other
and so I totally agree with that. That's the bullet that's the cartridge you put in your pistol.
The other side from my side, I want to defend Pete Carroll a little bit, and I want to defend the offense there, of course.
Sure, fair enough.
But the other side of it is where I then even question my defense of it is, teams getting to the Super Bowl is not like an everyday occurrence. You have to earn those opportunities to get there. And that's not just the Super Bowl, that's the World Series, that's the national championship of NCAA basketball or football or whatever it happens to be. So the fact that you have so few opportunities to actually make it to those football games, and in the end, you don't know when you're going to get back there. I mean, Pete Carroll may never get back to that game ever again in his entire career. And so that's where I guess in the mind that I see it kind of the other way as well, and to say, listen, you're going to be judged on your opportunities to perform at a particular time when the pressure is at its highest of possibilities, and the fact that they crumbled at that time, then for me that's where I then began to question it. Of course, the other side of it is, had that been this sneak play that they. I was saying, if he would have just thrown that ball a little bit further back on his left shoulder, he catches the football, Butler kind of comes down on him in this way, and he floats into the end zone and scores a touchdown. But yes,
then we would have called it the best play call of all time.
And in the end, Seattle lost that football game. There was a call that could have went obviously the other way, and as a result, that's where I then say, okay, I'm even questioning my ability to defend Pete Carroll in that circumstance, even though I do want to do it a little bit.
Fair enough. Final thoughts on the game, on the year, anything
the two best teams of the season were in the Super Bowl.
That was nice. I mean,
that was nice.
That was a nice thing.
Carolina sneak in there with the Colts, do something and get in there as well. One of the best games I've ever seen, regardless whether it's Super Bowl or whatever.
Fantastic football game.
The ending, I almost had a heart attack on several occasions during this game. If it wasn't for my better half being beside me, she was sticking needles in me. David, stay with me. I mean, literally, I was had my head between my legs.
And Dave,
on that drive when Kersey caught that unbelievable catch.
Dave, who won that football game for the Pats? I think it was Barbara, actually, because she's been calling for an interception the entire game.
Isn't that ironic?
And it ended up happening at the most critical point.
Interception. So, yeah, right, baby. It's not going to happen. And then, boom. We could always go back and...
Moral of the story is
judgment. I think Pete Carroll did a fabulous job with the team that he had. He dealt with a lot of injuries during the season. He had a lot of problems in the secondary.
We were writing
Not to mention the scuttlebutt that was going on in the locker room, also with Lynch and things like that.
Percy Harvin.
Yes, I think he did. And he lost some very key players and still managed to get the core of that group back into the Super Bowl.
Because we downplayed Seattle a lot in the beginning of the season. Early in the season, we were dissing on Seattle, and then all of a sudden, there they were.
Somebody called him Johnny Come Latelys. I don't know who that was.
Oh, I don't think that's really fair.
But there were 30 teams that weren't in the Super Bowl.
I forgot who that might have been. Yeah,
I didn't.
It's interesting though. Back the NCAA basketball playoffs a few years ago, Butler almost won it with a bank shot. Butler
the team.
Yeah, Butler the team. Right? Yeah. But the thing is, everybody got behind this underdog team, and it was like a big Disney movie to watch.
Wasn't just Butler that year. That would have been Virginia Christian was in that year.
Yeah,
William
VCU,
and was it William and Mary or somebody? There were I think the Final Four was an 8, a 2, a 5, and an 11 or something. Anyway.
Right. College basketball, folks. That's the next big thing.
So going back to this whole Butler thing, Butler was a late addition to that play. Apparently, he was a late thought. He ran onto the field right before the snap. Okay.
West Alabama.
Yeah. He was like a late idea, right? Yeah. Kind of that little segue, and I'm thinking that I am regretting that. I mean, I all the power to this kid, rookie. All the power to him, right? But I'm regretting that because why? Because it galvanizes the bigger than life deal that Bostonians and New Englanders have of their sports teams. and we're just gonna never stop hearing about it.
A whole another year of that, yeah.
But
That's true. That's what I regretted
I
most
like what
about New
Belichick-
England winning
Yeah.
was that I had to listen to this for a whole
you
year.
got another 12 months of it.
I know.
He's got Arrington, who's basically could have almost been all pro this year. He's a very good secondary, very good cornerback. Why not? What the hell you got to lose? Stick in this undrafted guy from West Alabama whose adrenaline is probably 10 times higher than Gronk's is going. The kid probably read it. This is my moment. He had nothing to lose. Now it's a brilliant call. I mean, we can go back.
When it works, it's brilliant. When it doesn't,
brilliant.
then you're about to be thrown under the bus.
I think that's a good way to wrap up the show.
I will say that
Oh,
I
wait,
never
some more
once.
One more thing.
I
Let,
never-
let him have his last.
I never once
Chris.
razzed the Seahawks fan the way those fans were razzing me during the whole game. During the Super Bowl.
That was
They were
mostly
ra-
my son,
I
though.
bet
In all
both of
fairness, you
them
bet
suck.
him money. You got him going on the money, so.
Oh, and I just keep it. It's fine.
It feels familiar.
No deflate game or anything like that. that goes
No,
with
let's save that for another day when we got some actual information to talk about. Thanks for joining us, guys,
been a
and
great year.
we'll do an off-season show here sometime before too long, and kind of wrap up some of the other topics. So it's been fun having the season with you, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
I'm out.
Or cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Five.
Thanks.
Five.
Good.